Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Myra Clark, and I'm an abstract painter and installation artist in Portland, Oregon. This is the third in a series of 3 videos that celebrate and support my new installation work, The Slow Regard of Hidden Things. This video follows last Sunday's program, which provided more context for the art and might be useful as you tie the artwork into the poetry from this video. If you're interested, I commend it to you, and there's more information that will be available at the end of this event. Ekphrastic. I couldn't pronounce it when I first heard of it. And what did it mean, and where was it from? It was such an unusual word to me. Well, it's from the Greek ekphrasis and means to describe. Ekphrastic is specifically used to describe a work of art. So ekphrastic poetry uses the art form of poetry to respond to art. In this video, I'm thrilled to have 3 poets responding to the slow regard of hidden things. The creativity, the new imaginings and images that they create with words, and the new meanings that they have brought to the visual art through their art form of poetry is truly wonderful. Debby Schauffler is a full-time teacher, and we have all become aware of how much time and commitment this takes, how much above and beyond it takes during the pandemic. Yet her dedication to her poetry means that she still found time to contribute to this project. A special thanks to you, Debby, for that gift. As an actor, Jessica Lynn Skinner splits her time between LA and Portland. She also has a passion for writing, and I'm thrilled to have this newly published poet contribute her work to this video. It is a privilege to also have Michelle Delaine Williams with us. She is an independent freelance writer and a dedicated and passionate writer, always looking to further refine her craft. I think you will find her work and the other poets' work both thoughtful and thought-provoking. My last introduction is of Emma Waite. She's the pianist for this video, and you've already heard her play Bach's French Suite No. 3 as the program began. She's 9. Can you believe that? She attends Kaufman Center's Special Music School in New York, and she is also playing Tchaikovsky, Chopin, and Rimsky-Korsakov pieces for us. Emma is my niece, and I'm not biased or anything, but I think you will be as charmed by her and by her wonderful piano playing that complements the poetry offering so well. Thank you, Emma. So sit back and enjoy the intertwining of these 3 art forms. May you be inspired and nurtured during this time when it is more important than ever.
Hi, my name is Jessica Lynn Skinner, and I had the honor of writing some poetry for Myra Clark's newest show called The Slow Regard of Hidden Things. When Myra first asked me if I might like to write some poetry for the show, I was really excited because I've always loved Myra's work, and the title, The Slow Regard of Hidden Things, is in and of itself a poem. I've found that lately my writing process feels pretty collage-like in nature. I like to collect phrases that I overhear in real life or in movies or books or music and write them down and then kind of see how they might all fit together into one cohesive poem. And so that's sort of how these poems came about as well, because Myra and I had several conversations while she was creating her pieces and while they were finished. And when we would talk, I'd write down interesting or meaningful things that she said or that I thought while she was speaking. So when I went and I sat down to write these poems, I knew that I wanted them to function in somewhat of a similar way that Myra's show does. Like there's 6 different pillars. I wanted there to be 6 different stanzas to sort of mirror that. But I took the little collage pieces, the little phrases that had come out of our conversations and used those and put them directly into the poems themselves. I think what was really interesting about writing all of these sections was I wrote them all in one sitting. And because of that, I think that they became a lot more connected and circular than they would have if I wrote them all in separate sittings, which I think is something really special about Myra's show, is the way it all flows together. Yeah, I really enjoyed writing poetry for this show, and I hope you enjoy this show as much as I did. Thank you. The Slow Regard of Hidden Things. Prologue. How it all starts is all we are ever trying to get back to. Blood and water and social constructs get in the way of remembering the words of the old poet. God speaks to each of us as he makes us, and then walks with us silently into the night. In my griefs and in my growths, I am often recalling this night as I survey the teacups tossed on the ground, what I let slip from my own fingers. How it all starts is all we are ever trying to get back to. 1. In the beginning, I was freshly painted and dressed in embroidered lace. Now I am 25 and dressed in the language of my descriptors. I am not a sculptor. I am forming things off of other things. I am this way with my words and my art and my lovers. Before everything rose into focus, the fabric of what made me was quite fine. I fit inside the smallest blue bowl, my lifeline, a thin red strand curled into itself. Now, I am too brittle and asking too many questions. What else have I hung out to dry? 2. The man who loved me used to sing hymns in the shower whenever I was trying to read my book. Cast me not away from thy presence, O God. Take not thy Holy Spirit from me. Are words I will only ever hear sung in his voice. Sometimes and often I think of him and wonder what he is singing now, but dare not wonder to whom. These days I am trying to remember our elegance as we existed together, fragile, on this earth, our island home. Why is it that coming to attention is so much harder once you have lost it all? I think that love, no matter its length, will always become a ghost. Tissue paper grows around bodies in space until it is all that is left of the mold. I do not think it a failure, that we are always asking how to stay together. My best understanding of love is the constant embrace of falling apart and converging back together. 3. Yesterday I told a friend that the bread she baked looked like the Venus of Willendorf, which seems fitting because there are not many things more human than bodies and bread. I remember learning in college that since her discovery, scholars have always debated her purpose. Was she a self-portrait or a prayer or a totem? Hasn't this always been the way for women? reason for being under constant speculation. When I was a girl, I had a doll who looks just like how I look now. Long brown hair, overgrown bangs, slight bug eyes. Was this a coincidence or a premonition? Why do I want to weep when I think of my younger self taking care of me now? Anyways, Venus of Willendorf, just like my friend's bread, just like God, has no face. Where do dolls come from? Do they come from this faceless one we are always trying to get back to? The need to hold a piece of divinity in two small hands. 4. There are just a few pins at the neck that cut and pierce the lamp. How thin we all are between our bodies and our light is something the martyrs know. Headlines. Ahmaud Arbery video shocks the nation. George Floyd killed. Hospitals at capacity. BLM movement urges people to keep the lights on. The world scratches at the skin like the uncomfortable inside of a glove. No, this metaphor is trite. People are dying. In a list of identities, I have never thought to define myself by the color of my skin, in case I end up walking alone at night, in case I end up walking alone during the middle of the day with many people watching, in case I get so sick I end up in a hospital where no one believes me. There are just a few pins at the neck that cut and pierce. How thin we all are between our bodies and our light. 5. I overly identify with the autonomy of cats. Do not come near me if I do not invite you. Let me sit in the sun and praise my God without interruption other than the appearance of birds. My heart and soul are busy reconciling with one another for the first time. From this viewpoint above, I can see the blessings like birds below me. No longer am I willing to hide the cracks of what made me into who I am now. For so long, I was taught that what was lost was meant to be squeezed into lessons. No longer am I invested in this antagonism. The tale of cats and birds has only ever been a love story. 6. Enfin. And so, what do we have left of ourselves? When I am drawn to my conclusions, cracked and molded beyond any beginnings, take from the remains of me, make them into something new, make love or art or dirt. That is all I have made of anyway. Enfin. Let it be that the pillars I stood on were critical, that if I could have avoided them, I would have. Let it be that I jumped down the moment I became disconnected from the ground. May all of my lovers know that I was as true as the day our love first started. May every ounce of joy be returned to from whatever night it grew from. Enfin. And so, whatever falls is a beautiful shadow on the floor.
Hi, my name is Debby Schauffler. I'm a writer and a high school English teacher here in Portland, where I grew up. I'm honored to be asked by Myra to be part of this show and wish we were all down there in the gallery together. So this is a poem I wrote in the Portland Japanese garden when I was taking students on a field trip to do some writing. And It's a little bit about how we draw from nature for our creative work, and a little bit about how sometimes the outside world is impinging on our ears and our consciousness as we're trying to do that, and how maybe we can use that as well. And the poem has a bunch of different voices in it. You'll probably figure that out as I'm paying attention to the Japanese garden, but also to the passersby. And it's called Stillness. Another connection I see between my poem and Myra's artwork is the search for some kind of silence and rest and stillness in the midst of all the things that bombard us from every side. And that's why my poem is called Stillness, a thing I think we need a little more of. Stillness, stillness. Water, sun behind a veil of clouds. Shadowless, gray, mossy lichen on the woven fence. Cracked ice patterning the paving stones. A carpet of dried brown pine needles. Some trees feel the wind. Some take no notice. Teenage tourists shriek, drawn by the city spread out below the invisible, cloud-hidden mountain, their cameras dangling, unintrigued. Women in sweats pass, discussing the best way to cut scones, in sixths or sixteenths. The long fingers of each willow branch arc earthwards, all tipped with rosy, pregnant buds. Rock and willow complete each other, solidity and lacy emptiness, motion and force. How do they get the rocks out there and leave no footprints? Flying gardeners? Maybe that gardening angel you hear so much about at church. Sun makes a jewel of the fountain's flow, coats the pavers with a silvery river delta, illuminates the rhododendrons, makes them parrots in flight. She's really determined not to eat the stuff she's allergic to. Beyond the twisted willow and ancient columns of pine, the noiseless glass towers of downtown. The death knell for IBM when they did that. A spectrum of greens and yellows, greens and grays, this garden in March. I said you can't talk to girls like that, and especially you can't talk to me like that. Dry wisteria shoots leap like antlers above the barren arbor, crowning it and its hazy shadow. Her mom, she's nice. Pools of green velvet, sun-soaked moss. You're either going to love it or hate it. Golden fish from a Tang Dynasty scroll swim under the footbridge, past last year's dry, wrinkled lily pads. Sun and water, stillness. Thank you.
I'm Michelle Williams, and first of all, I just want to say thank you to Myra for inviting me to participate in her show this month. It's been a real pleasure to collaborate with other artists during the pandemic, which I think is something that we've all been missing quite a bit. So I love the show. I really enjoyed the white objects in the white room. I think that brought a level of sacredness combined with the Hildegard to Bingen music playing. Just the viewing experience was wonderful. I like that she explored herself through really simple symbols, and I tried to start from a similar place. I know she was exploring what it means to be a white middle-class woman. I quickly became somewhat tripped up on the language around those ideas and could not find words that resonated for me in terms of a poem. So I backed up a little bit and took a look around my own environment, my home, and chose a few objects that I thought represented my core identity. From there, I actually explored visually those objects in a little video experiment. And then I wrote the words to lay on top of the video. So I did this whole project in a little bit of a topsy-turvy fashion. But I really like the way it's turning out, and I hope you do too. Thanks. Where do we look for the unseen? In the underbrush, thickets, where nests of memory molder, under cedar, fern, and ivy, in a fecund network of fungus. In the particular rattle of heavy rain on the roof, invoking a sudden fear that all could be turned over, like an early model mobile home in a gale. So I leave something for myself and find something from myself. In the veins of folded paper, smeared and faded and flowing with stories sharp and true. In the reddening branches of the spirea, a signal in gray that everything cycles, falling apart and coming back together, falling apart and coming back together. At birth, I am precious, a tiny, delicate object, a project. I learn to play. I am a cunning cat, full of all the wildness given by the moon. I am a learner. I watch from a crouch, follow the patterns until finished is good enough. Tiny stitches are the best, they say. And now I love like an animal loves, fur to fur. I am childless by choice, seething with fervent reluctance. I prefer to walk into the canyon without a pack on my back. That's me, there in the middle of it all. The one with the beginning of wisps. I'm wrapped in plaster, sipping tea with a cat. The cat in its cubby and me slowly regarding the crick in my hip. I'm falling apart and coming back together. I'm falling apart and coming back to the ache within me, in my bones, and deeper yet. Love is candy eyelash sweetness spinning, then aging fog and twirls of smoke in the trees. Care is walking alone and together. I keep leaving things for myself, for my bones, white and pocked with worry. These notes of sorrow scrawled in the night. I keep finding things from myself. I've learned by lamplight, lost in pages leafing, to find a hint of trodden ground. Paper to story to air, to wood, to hunger, to earth, to feather, to wisdom, to breath, to image, to memory, to fire, to bone, to body, to water. In the end, water runs over everything.